So you guys already know that I've seen the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and I'm here to talk about some things that I couldn't talk about last time. I know I've already done a review on this movie, but A, I love this movie because it is a big part of my childhood, Five Nights at Freddy's, and B, there are things that I think if I talk more about the spoiler side of things, I can get my point across about how I feel about the movie better. Anyway, on to the review. First of all, the scene at the very beginning with the security guard running from Foxy. And soon after the movie had already been released, I had been recently informed that he was supposed to be played by Markiplier, but as I said in my earlier review, he couldn't make it because he was filming his own movie. But can you imagine if he had actually made it in? That would have been so cool. Anyway, that part was really good, and I think it was a good way to hook you into the story, no pun intended, and it was just a really good way to kickstart the whole movie. And the fact that Foxy sang his iconic pirate song gave me such chills, and it was so cool. I am forever going to gush about how good the animatronics look and how good the set design is. It is phenomenal, it is flawless, like, I have no complaints in that department for this movie. I will forever find ways to gush about it. The animatronics were so cool looking that people couldn't even really believe that they were not CGI. The producers had to actively send out a message that they used little to no CGI. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm here to talk more about the actual story. It did stray away from the game's lore a little bit, but I'm okay with that because A, it's a movie adaptation, and movie adaptations are known for kind of straying away from canon, from game canon or whatever, or book canon. And B, the story that we have makes so little sense. We have to form theories just to make it make sense.
It's just theory.
So I'm okay with it straying away from game canon. And the thing that a lot of people are bothered by with this movie is how the animatronics technically befriend the little girl Abby. They don't do the stupid "together we are FNAF" type thing that people have been joking about. The animatronics themselves don't even talk. The only words we ever hear from them technically are from the ghost children. And I think the only one that ever actually talks is the one that haunts Golden Freddy. And I think the thing that people were complaining about the most was a part of the movie where they were building a table and chair fort with the animatronics. I, however, enjoyed that scene so much. I loved that scene because it reminded me a lot of the Five Nights at Freddy's content that I used to watch when I was younger. You Five Nights at Freddy's fans know what I'm talking about, those stupid SFM videos. But even without that, it still makes sense because they are haunted by children. So they're gonna act like children still and do childlike things like building a fort. At the end of the day, all they really wanted was a new friend to play with. So putting it into that context gives this scene quite a bit of a bittersweet undertone if you really think about it. They were just misguided by William Afton into killing their friends. Speaking of William Afton, the scene with Vanessa and her revealing that William Afton was her father in the theater, like, my face literally went from
"His name is William Afton. He's my father."
That's literally how I reacted, because that was so out of nowhere, and it honestly brings more questions than answers to the lore. Because as far as we know, the Vanessa in this movie is technically the same Vanessa from Security Breach. And if that's the case, that brings so much to the table, and hopefully we'll get some answers in the sequel, because there are rumors that there's going to be a sequel to this movie. Speaking of Vanessa, I did find it weird how she was just so nonchalant about the kids going missing. It's just like, oh yeah, a bunch of kids went missing in this restaurant. Anyway, you want to see the animatronics? That just seemed, I don't know, that just seemed weird and nonchalant. I guess it's because of how she was raised. She was literally raised by a child murderer. So I guess she's desensitized to this kind of thing. Which also raises the question of how she became a cop. If she even is a real cop. I'm not entirely convinced that she is, unless William or Steve Raglan somehow managed to weasel his way through the system to get her that job. That's a possibility. That seems kind of in character, but I don't know how that would work. I also do wish we could have seen more of William Afton, other than just the beginning scene, the end scene, and the little photo. I wish we could have seen at least like a couple flashbacks of him, maybe? But again, if they do make a sequel or even a prequel, hopefully we will get to see more of that. Speaking of William Afton, the spring lock scene, something that we were hoping was going to be in the movie, it makes sense that they included it. It was perfect. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I love that he says, I always come back, like he always does in the games. And that when the animatronics are dragging him away, Freddy lets out a battle cry, and then they drag him away to the kitchen to bleed out and die. Which also explains why the kitchen camera is broken in the main game. Also, they included the living tombstone at the end. I was so happy when I saw that. As we were leaving the theater, I was happily singing along as we left. As a movie critic, I would say this whole movie is an 8 out of 10. However, the Five Nights at Freddy's fan side of me says that it is a 10 out of 10 experience. If you are a Five Nights at Freddy's fan, watch this movie if you have not already.